Right, guys, so let's look at question 4. This is another question about concrete, which is mainly made out of calcium oxide. So calcium oxide, as we know, it is a base. So when it combines with, it dissolves in water, right? It basically forms your calcium hydroxide, which is also a diacidic base, meaning that it reacts with 2 moles of H+. Okay, so you have a cracked concrete beam, right, which basically is your calcium oxide, which, as you can see, right, the further into the crack you go, right, the higher the pH. Okay, and the further out you go, your pH decreases to almost neutral, as in the surface. So describe and explain the change in pH from the surface to the center of the beam. So going inside the beam, right, your pH increases. So on the surface, it is about pH 7. Surface is pH 7. It is mostly neutral because the carbon dioxide in the air, right, neutralizes the base, right? So it's pH 7. But as you go further into the beam, right, the pH will increase and it reduces near the crack. Okay, so the further in you go, right, the less the carbon dioxide can react, because less carbon dioxide can dissolve and get into so deep into the crack. Okay, so the pH, right, will increase until pH 13. That's all the way into the crack. Okay, so that reacting acidic CO2 with your calcium hydroxide will lower the pH. So all the way in, right, at pH 13, there's hardly any CO2. You don't have a neutralization. Okay, so you're gonna need to describe the change in pH. So this description is probably 1 mark. And to explain the change in the pH, okay, to explain the change. Okay, so this is probably 1 mark, and then this is probably 1 mark, right? So total of 3 marks. Okay, part B is a very simple calculation question. What are we given? We are given the volume of the base. We are also given volume and concentration of an acid. So acid reacts with the base 2:1. That's the mole ratio. So all we need to do is to calculate the number of moles of HCl, because the question asks us to find concentration of the base. Okay, so since this is a acid base reaction, we just need to get the mole ratio from the equation here, and then we first calculate number of moles of the H+, which will relate to our calcium hydroxide, because the ratio is 1:2, right? So since we found number of moles of HCl, we'll just go ahead and divide by 2 to get number of moles of calcium hydroxide, which is half the number of moles of HCl. Okay, once you got the number of moles, right, you know that concentration equals to number of moles over volume. Okay, so since the volume we have it, we just calculated number of moles. You just divide number of moles by the volume, you will get your concentration. Okay, so there you have your answer.